You are lying in bed. It is late. You should be asleep. Instead, you are watching a stranger describe in careful detail how another stranger was murdered. You know how this ends. You press play on the next one anyway. Why? The easy answer is that you are morbid. The real answer is far stranger. Your brain did not build this obsession by accident. It built it on purpose. Somewhere in your evolutionary past, paying close attention to danger was not entertainment. It was survival. Think about your ancestors for a moment. They lived in small groups. Threats were not abstract. A predator, a rival tribe, a member of their own group who could not be trusted. The humans who survived long enough to pass on their genes were not the ones who ignored these threats. They were the ones who studied them. Every detail mattered. What did the predator's tracks look like? What did the dangerous man's face do right before he struck? Which warning signs came first? Your ancestors who remembered these details lived. The ones who did not often did not. You inherited that same machinery. It just doesn't have a saber-toothed cat to point at anymore. So it points at true crime instead. In 2010, a researcher named Amanda Vickery at Illinois Wesleyan University decided to test something everyone assumed, but nobody had actually measured. She wanted to know why true crime audiences are overwhelmingly women. Her study, published in the journal Personality and Individual Differences, found something unexpected. Women weren't drawn to these stories because of morbid fascination alone. They were drawn to them because the stories contained something useful. Escape tactics, warning signs, how victims survived and how some did not. Vickery's participants weren't just consuming horror. They were rehearsing it. Every locked door scene, every description of a killer's manipulation tactics, every account of how a victim talked her way out of a car was quietly being filed away as usable information. Your brain was not watching a story. It was running a simulation. That single insight reframes almost everything about true crime's appeal. But it isn't the whole picture. There is another piece, a more recent one. In 2021, a researcher named Coltan Scrivner, then at the University of Chicago, published a study asking a deceptively simple question. Why do some people love horror movies, true crime and disaster documentaries, while others cannot stand them? Scrivner found that the strongest predictor wasn't a love of violence. It was something he called morbid curiosity, a drive to understand danger from a position of safety. His participants weren't seeking fear itself. They were seeking information about fear, delivered in a container where nothing could actually reach them. Picture that container for a moment. You are on your couch. The doors are locked. The killer in the documentary cannot see you. He cannot follow you home. You get all of the data your ancestors once needed and none of the danger they once faced. This is why the genre exploded once it became safe to consume at scale. A campfire story could only reach the people sitting around the fire. A streaming platform can reach millions of people sitting in millions of safe living rooms, all running the same ancient simulation at once. But information alone doesn't explain why you remember these stories so vividly. Something else is happening, something about the storyteller. A psychologist named Frank McAndrew at Knox College has spent years studying gossip. Not gossip as idle chatter, but gossip as a survival tool. His research suggests that talking about other people's misdeeds, especially dramatic or dangerous ones, is one of the oldest forms of social information sharing humans ever developed. True crime is gossip with better production values. Every episode gives you a name, a face, a betrayal, a downfall. Your brain treats this almost exactly the way it would treat overhearing something scandalous about someone in your own community. Except now the community is the entire internet, and the case files never run out. Notice what this does to your sense of the killer. You don't just learn what he did. You learn who he was before anyone knew. The quiet neighbor, the helpful coworker, the father who coached his son's baseball team. This detail is not filler. It is the entire point. Your ancestors' survival did not depend on identifying obvious monsters. Obvious monsters were rarely the danger. Their survival depended on identifying the ones who looked exactly like everyone else. The threat that could pass, undetected, inside the group. That is why the phrase, "he seemed so normal," appears in almost every true crime story ever told. It is not a coincidence, and it is not even really about the killer. It is about you. Your brain is being handed a warning label it desperately wants. Here is what evil looks like right before it reveals itself. Memorize this face. Memorize this pattern. You might need it. Of course, none of this fully explains the guilt some viewers feel afterward. The uneasy sense that enjoying a true story about someone's murder is, itself, a small betrayal of the victim. Here the research offers something almost comforting. Scrivner's later work found that morbidly curious viewers were not less empathetic than anyone else. In several measures, they scored higher. The people most drawn to these stories were often the ones most attuned to danger on behalf of others, not most indifferent to suffering. That reframes the guilt entirely. You are not watching because some part of you is broken. You are watching because some very old part of you is still trying to protect people. It just hasn't figured out that the danger it is preparing you for already happened to someone else a long time ago. Consider what this means for the way these stories are built. The hook is never really the murder. The hook is the moment right before it when everything still looked fine. The dinner table conversation, the last text message, the ordinary Tuesday. Your nervous system leans forward at exactly that moment, because that is precisely the kind of moment your ancestors needed to learn to recognize. Not the disaster itself, but the 5 seconds before it, when it could still have been prevented. This is also why the twist matters so much in true crime storytelling. The reveal that the killer was the trusted friend, not the stranger in the parking lot, does something specific to your brain. It updates your threat model. It tells you the danger you were watching for was never where you expected it. And your brain treats that update as valuable, even when the case is 50 years old and every person involved is gone. You are not collecting facts about a stranger's death. You are updating a survival manual that has been open, unfinished, since before written history existed. So the next time you queue up another episode at midnight, notice what is actually happening. You are not indulging some dark curiosity that needs explaining away. You are running the oldest program your species ever wrote. Watch, remember, recognize the pattern before it reaches you. It is late. You should be asleep. Instead, some very old part of you is standing watch, the way it always has, the way it always will.